It is 11:29 on Thursday, February 27th. I surprisingly had little homework today, actually the past 2 days. But I know that tonight will be a long night for me. I think I just need a little bit to myself to just do some things. I don't really know what quite now. I know I'm going to be working on some of my algo homework. Let's do Monday because I don't want to go to sleep right now. I definitely don't want to go back to my room because then I'll just sit there on my bed laying awake watching YouTube. I feel like I got to do something to get my mind off things because, like I said yesterday, I've just been peak anxiety, and today is no different. And I can't really tell why, but it just is. And I can't really tell right now if I just want to be alone for a bit or I want to just kind of hang out and take my mind off things. So it's kind of what I was doing today, or I just hung out, and then tonight I'm going to be alone for a while. But the thing that I want to talk about is something that I noticed when I listen or watch things in a different language. And I've talked about this many a times, but I really like Japanese music. I like anime. A couple days ago I said I picked up Berserk and Frieren as the first mangas that I have ever bought. But there's something really interesting that I have discovered when listening specifically to Japanese, because I listen to other things in other languages. Like I've watched a multitude of Russian films. I've watched a lot of German films. Actually, those are I took a class in Russian cinema, and I've taken Russian literature and German in high school, so a lot of the German and Russian kind of overlap. But there's something really interesting when listening to a different language. And I think it's much more evident with anime because it's in a TV format, going week to week, getting stuff out quickly, and it's less of a big production. Like I think of Nixloin and Vestin, All Quiet on the Western Front. Prisoner of the Mountains, Stalker. And then you get, those are just like movies and big productions. And anime, since it's lower budget, don't have the money or don't want to have to spend money to get premium voice actors. Like I would say a good comparison would be the Studio Ghibli films, where they get really high profile English actors, and voice acting is pretty good. And sometimes voice acting can be pretty nice with English voice acting. The dubs can be pretty good. I think Frieren is a prime example of a very, very good dub that really captures the characters. But I would be willing to bet that if you listen to any anime subbed, you cannot tell that a Japanese voice actor is not a very good voice actor. Because you can tell when there's a English voice actor that's just like, like it's a little bit over-exaggerated, some of this and that. And you can tell that some of them are bad. But never in Japanese. And I think it's because when I say we, I mean as native English speakers who don't really know Japanese too well, they cannot tell the speech patterns of a normal Japanese person. They don't know how normal people speak in Japanese. So when they listen to something in the different language, they just hear the innate emotion of what the character is saying. Like you can get that from an English dub, I would presume. You can tell, oh, that guy's angry. But then sometimes you're just like, that doesn't feel right. That's a little over-exaggerated. That there's missing some with the intonation. But you can never tell that because you don't know their intonation. And I think that's really interesting. And that brings me to the second point when it comes to music. Is that music is not about convincing that you're something you're not. It's about conveying maybe some lyrical meaning or musical meaning. And I've talked about how I really enjoy the musical side of things. And when you're listening to songs, like I have a lot of Spanish songs, I have a couple of French, or actually I only have one French song. some Japanese songs, is that when you listen to it, you can't really understand what is going on in the lyrical side of thing. And what they're saying is essentially just another extension of a melody, of the background instrumentals. And so you listen, and for me specifically, I listen to that, and I love that that's an extension of the music itself instead of a lyrical kind of separate thing that it is. And I take a different story from the music, like I would say Racing Through the Night, one of the Yasobe's most famous song. It's about, I think, like a guy committing suicide in the end, and it's based on a short story about really interesting topic. But the music has nothing like that, and the lyrics mean something different. And so, like, when we hear it as native English speakers, we take the meaning completely different than people who listen to it in Japanese. Maybe like "Stay With Me," like "I Can't Stop the Loneliness," a bunch of other things. And I find it so interesting that there's this kind of divide between how we listen to it. And another thing I'm always interested in when it comes to the music or the lyrics themselves, like I don't understand the lyrics, but I understand that in English there's kind of a rhyming convention. There's words that usually go with each other. There's things that happen that are just what they are, like. It's like alone and phone kind of are paired together. There's rhyming conventions, and thus there's story conventions within songs because the words rhyme with each other. So it's easier to sing about certain topics just because they rhyme. And I always think that's interesting. It's like, what other languages have different rhyming conventions and thus story conventions? Like when I learn Japanese, like I understand the verb endings, the sentence endings. And I feel like right now, from what I have learned, it's only been a semester and a half since we're going through this one right now, that there's a much more that they can sing about because there's more common endings to a sentence that are the same syllable. English, we have, I think, a lot more words than other languages, so we're able to say more things and communicate things in different manners, but Japanese just has more common sounding endings of words that make it so that I think they can sing about more. And this is just pure speculation on my part from what the little that I've learned, but I think that's something like, I think that they should be able to sing about more topics in a convention that's popular in songs than English can. I don't know, it's really interesting to think about how what we take for granted when we're like watching a movie and hearing the speech patterns and intonation patterns, or listening to music and separating the lyrics from the music or the rhymes from the story. And I just find it so interesting that when you look into a different language, that whole thing is just gone. You don't understand anything that's happening at the current moment, so you have to kind of interpret from what you know. And sure, like a question will always be a question. Like if in English you rise up, in Japanese you go desu ka? And it's the same. There's similar things, so you can piece together in your mind a little bit, but the emphasis is in different places. The subject and the subjects in different places in sentences. There are different ways to say things. Like if I would say I am going to do something, in Japanese it's I am do something am going. Like it's just different sentence structure, and it's so cool to think about is that they are living in their own completely different world and different I keep going back to songs, but we have songs that are the same songs. Like in popular music, like I would specifically say sad popular music, kind of goes off the same thing over and over again because they're easy to rhyme and easy to just kind of go within a context of a song. And I'm like, they may have, maybe in English, sad songs are easy to write norm. But over there, maybe it's something different. In Spanish, Maybe it's a different type of like love song. And so I think it's really interesting to think about how a language is not only just a different language, but it creates its own unique interactions within media itself. I don't know, I just think it's really cool and something cool to think about.